Michigan taking on Wisconsin this week. Is this finally Wisconsin's year to win the Big Ten? A battle of maybe our top two QBs in this year's draft. Sam Darnold and USC take on Josh Rosen and UCLA in the battle for the victory bell. Notre Dame might be out of playoff contention, but now it's about staying in the New Year's Six. They get the powerful running attack of the Naval Academy. Georgia got throttled last week against Auburn. How will they fare against a Kentucky team who is now bowl eligible for the second year in a row? And with so many coaches on their way out, we break down the best possible replacements for all the top jobs, including Tennessee and Florida. And also, who is the best college football job in the nation? All those answers and more on this episode of College Football Preview. Let's go.
Did you know that ticket prices can actually go down right before the game? That's where Game Time comes in. Game Time tracks ticket prices in real time from thousands of trusted sellers, then shows you all the best deals. So we can get tickets at the last minute for up to 60% off. Download Game Time now.
What's going on, everyone? I'm Harris Rubenstein, part one of the Zebra Bros. This is Tom Downey, part two of the Zebra Bros. Welcome, thank you. Welcome to College Football Preview. Tom, I gotta say, not the greatest games this week, so we threw in a couple of fun things to talk about today.
I think it's a very nice way of putting it. We're going to talk about some overall, what's the best coaching job in college football.
Indeed.
We're going to talk about some hot seats as well. It'll be a good show.
It's going to be a fun one. Reminder,
make up for what's iffy games.
Not great, Tom.
Great.
Pretty awful. Reminder that this show is brought to you by Game Time, the #1 ticketing app that you will find on the App Store. Just go in the App Store, find Game Time, or go to chatsports.com/tickets for up to 60% off your live concerts, sporting events, anything you can offer. Game Time.
The reviews speak for themselves. Go to the Play Store, go to the iOS Store. They are all pretty much 5 stars across the board.
Just as
close as you can possibly get.
And you know what?
Because they're trolls.
The quality of the Game Time app is just as good as the quality of the College Football Daily video podcast on iTunes. So go subscribe, rating, and review as well. You can find all of our episodes and segments from this show and more there. But Game Time's way more important. So go check out the Game Time app. But Tom, enough of us. Let's get into some actual previews. Our first preview of the day: Michigan taking on Wisconsin. Some sneaky Big Ten action. Wisconsin, is this their year? Can Michigan get in? Tom, what do we got?
Harris, do you like defense?
I do like defense.
Do you like defense more than offense?
No.
Then this is not a game for you.
Oh.
I believe this is going to be a very low-scoring affair because what we've seen under Michigan is great defense. Great ground game that sometimes falters against better defenses than a passing attack that, we'll see how good Brandon Peters actually is. This is going to be an incredible test for him because he's playing a fantastic defense in Wisconsin. Now, Wisconsin has a better offense right now. Jonathan Taylor, borderline Heisman candidate. I think Baker Mayfield's still your frontrunner there. Yeah. Alex Hornibrook is a nice, safe, quality option. This is the real test for Wisconsin because I really didn't believe in Iowa. Iowa's not a great team. Yeah, they absolutely routed Ohio State. I think that was more of a fluke game. This is a real test for Wisconsin this week.
Is this Wisconsin's year? Is this finally their year to they don't have to play Ohio State, or at least until the championship game. They don't have to touch Michigan State. They don't have to touch Penn State. They finally just get a year undefeated. The only tough team they have to play this year is Michigan. Is this Wisconsin's year?
It's a great year for them to be in the position to make the playoff because they have Michigan and probably Ohio State in the Big Ten championship game. The regular season schedule was a cakewalk for them, but I still think this is a really good Ohio State team. I don't know if I'm quite ready to buy Wisconsin yet, and I probably won't be until they win the Big Ten if they do that.
So then the question is, Tom, who do you got? Michigan, Wisconsin.
Wisconsin. I am throwing up the heart here.
It's Michigan. This is the Michigan game.
It's not a real place. Wisconsin, and it's kind of easy for me actually.
So let's just hypothetically say that Michigan wins this game, Tom, because this is a question that I've actually
Big Ten's out.
I've asked James a couple times. I'm asking you. Can Michigan make the playoff if they beat Wisconsin and Ohio State?
No, because they still have to find a way to win the Big Ten, and that's the route for them to make it to the Big Ten championship game is so minuscule. They need basically a miracle. So it's not going to happen.
Okay.
So no, Michigan does not have a shot at the playoff.
Is it like,
they don't know. They know.
Is it like
no.
1% chance?
I'm talking less than 1% highlight here. All right.
Oh.
You need Michigan State and Penn State to both lose again. Penn State's schedule's a cakewalk. Michigan State is not that tough either. Michigan's not getting in.
All right.
I'm sorry. It's not going to happen.
Hey, I'm
now
not
they can play
sad about it.
spoiler. They can play spoiler, but that's as far as they're going.
Well, if Michigan can play spoiler and take down Ohio State and officially keep them out of the playoff, because you know, Tom, you know that they're just waiting to put Ohio State back in the playoff. But let's move on to the West Coast. UCLA, USC, Josh Rosen, Sam Darnold. We've been waiting. All of our NFL draft people have been waiting for this for years, or I guess for all year long. Yeah. Tom, does UCLA even have a remote chance of winning this football
Yes,
game?
because USC is frankly a little bit overrated when they play good teams.
We call that
They've
big
had issues. Yeah, they're this year's Georgia. Look, their passing defense is actually not that good, and Josh Rosen is now healthy again. I think Rosen's going to put up some good numbers. Now, we know what Rosen has a tendency to do. Get picked off, make some bad decisions, so that'll hurt them. What's ultimately going to cost UCLA a win is not Sam Darnold. It's Ronald Jones, the halfback. UCLA can't stop anyone on the ground. This is one of the worst run defenses in all of college football. Ronald Jones is going to approach 200 yards in this game. And as a result, USC is going to win. It's going to be a shootout, but USC is going to win. Also, I reject the premise of calling this the Victory Bell game. They stole that from Miami, Ohio, my alma mater, and UC. That's all I'm going to say on it.
So one thing I actually noticed, I thought that Josh Rosen was having a much better season than Sam Darnold. If you put their stats side to side, they're having very similar seasons. 3,200 yards for Darnold, 24 TDs to 11 picks, 3,100 yards, 21 touchdowns, and 9 picks for Rosen. So very similar numbers across the board, though Sam Darnold has had an issue with fumbling the football this year.
He's had more turnovers overall. Rosen's also been banged up for some games.
Very true. So, Tom, who you got in this one, UCLA or USC?
USC. Now, we saw this last year, and I just want to preface this because it's not a great week of college football. That wasn't the case at times last year, and we saw some upsets around this time of the year. So there's a chance, but I don't think this is the game that gets upset. I got USC.
USC in this one. Tom, I'm going to have to agree with you on that one. I just don't see how UCLA is going to pull out this game, though. I will say, if Josh Rosen beats USC, he has to be the number one pick, right?
And no, because it depends on how they win. Like if UCLA wins with Josh Rosen throwing 4 picks, then no. Well, and it's very early in the process. I do think Rosen, though, has a good shot to be there along with Darnold if he decides to turn pro.
Fair enough. All right, let's move on to our next game. USC's great rival Notre Dame is taking on Navy. Fun little matchup, even though Notre Dame got just throttled by Miami in a game that surprised just about everyone except for me because I picked Miami to win that game. But Notre Dame looked, awful against Miami. We'll see what they do against a Navy team that, by the way, bowl eligible again. Their head coach and that whole team has really turned the program around. They've been fantastic a couple of years with Keenan Reynolds. Now this year, we just saw Malcolm Perry go off against SMU. Tom, what do you make of this Navy versus Notre Dame team? Does Navy have a shot with that high-powered running game?
The way Navy plays, they almost always have a shot.
Right.
Because they control the clock. No team in college football has more time of possession this year than Navy does. So Navy's going to do what Navy does. They play solid defense, they run the ball, they keep you off the field, and they throw that triple option attack that's really tough to prepare for in a week's time. With that said, Notre Dame has run the ball really well, except in their 2 losses. And I think against Navy, the Fighting Irish will run the ball effectively, and it'll be enough for them to pick up the win. Maybe it's not by the full 17 that Vegas thinks it'll be. I think Notre Dame will bounce back at home and win. But this Navy's going to put up a solid fight. This is a pretty quality Navy football team.
So we'll pull up a reaction poll here for our viewers at home. Who you got, Navy or Notre Dame? Tom, what are the percentage chance that Navy can pull off an upset here?
I'll throw it like 34%.
34%.
I think they do have a chance. It's because Navy's going to play close. I think the odds of them covering the spread are actually a little bit higher. Because I think Navy's going to give Notre Dame a good fight. That's what they've always done. Okay. So outside the years when they've been really, really bad.
Notre Dame. I'm also going to take Notre Dame in this one, Tom. I think,
Yeah, because you were wrong about Notre Dame.
Notre Dame's going to win. I was kind of wrong about Notre Dame.
No, you were just wrong.
I ended up being kind of right.
No, you were just wrong.
We'll see what their record is at the end of the year. 3-loss Notre Dame team is not what I call a great Notre Dame team. Let's move on to our next one here. Kentucky versus Georgia. Georgia looking to maybe save their season these next couple weeks. There is still a chance they can get in, Tom.
Frankly,
there is a chance.
I don't even think it's just a chance. I think if Georgia wins out, they're in.
Late season losses happen.
Yeah.
On the road.
Look, we saw last year a team that was ranked highly in the year. Clemson lost a game late in the year and ended up being okay. If Georgia wins out, they're in.
Yeah.
So now Kentucky has played a quality team this year. Or it's been a quality team. This has been a surprisingly effective UK team. The spread is still heavily in favor of Georgia. I would not anticipate UK being able to win this game, but Benny Snell, the halfback, probably one of the better players the casual fan has never heard of. But Georgia has been so good on the ground. They struggled last week. They'll bounce back. Before last week, they were good for about 200 yards a game on the ground.
Right.
When you do that, you almost always win.
Kentucky, I got to say, you were saying that most teams in the SEC should be, quote-unquote, bowl eligible almost every year. But let's be honest, Kentucky has always been the laughingstock of the SEC in football. This is now
it's a slap in the face to Vanderbilt.
This is 2 years. Well played. This is 2 years in a row now where Kentucky's had a decent football program. Look at them. They're getting better.
They've had the flashes in the past as well. UK went to bowl games from 2010 to 06 in consecutive years. Now, there have been some droughts as well, but this is a UK team that's solid. In the end, though, this is Georgia. This is a game Georgia should win by multiple touchdowns, especially at home. I'd like to see Jake Fromm get a little bit more comfortable. This might be a game where you let Jake Fromm loose a little bit more. Get his confidence up.
I don't want to say we kind of a little bit maybe saw Jake Fromm be kind of a little bit more maybe half kind of, exposed last game. They kind of show that he doesn't really know how to throw the ball deep.
That's what we saw.
His arm strength isn't really there yet, but you're right. That is a lot of freshman quarterbacks. I'm also going to take Georgia in this game. Nice little SEC matchup, though. Probably one of the better games we have this entire weekend. And before we get to some games that I don't even know how to describe what the scores of this one's going to be. They're so bad that Vegas doesn't even have a line on them. But you can actually go to these games for some pretty fun prices on the Game Time app. Go to chatsports.com/tickets. You can get all of the Game Time tickets that you're looking for. Concerts, sporting events for up to 60% off right before Game Time. Ironically, they sit in my little Chat Sports folder. They got my little Chat Sports app right next to my Game Time app. It's perfect.
If you're going to go to an Auburn game, this is probably the one to go to. $20.
$20.
And this is not like, look, Auburn games are not cheap. Let's not kid ourselves.
$20
for
$20 is a good
Auburn
deal. To take on Louisiana Monroe. Not great.
It's only $20.
And speaking of Louisiana Monroe,
a nice afternoon.
Tom, do you know what I didn't realize? That not only is Auburn playing them this year, Auburn played Louisiana Monroe last year too, which
they have a deal. They have a deal. A brutal Sun Belt team.
Pathetic. That's so sad. I don't money this, money that, but they're exposing these kids to just an unfair football game. So Auburn has beaten them. They're 10-0. Auburn has won the matchup 73-7 against them, and Louisiana Monroe just keeps on coming back for that sweet, sweet green. And then Auburn, like I said, last year 58-7.
Couple of wins this year.
They're like. I went
4.
It's not even like Auburn's playing a good lower tier team. They're playing a bad one.
Yes,
and also,
they are.
Speaking of great teams playing
Don't forget,
bad teams.
by the way, this is the same ULM team that will also play Florida State later in the year because FSU needs that game to be bowl eligible.
Move it. Look, but even worse than this game, Alabama is playing Mercer. Mercer has a 0.3% chance to win this football game.
It's that high?
That's what I was thinking. And then not to mention, I wish the Mercer, this isn't even like Alabama playing a good FCF school. Mercer is 5-5 on the season. They're not even good.
I want to point this out that one of the headlines I saw when I was doing my prep work was Alabama not overlooking Mercer. I'm like, really?
There isn't even a line for this game because they're afraid of what's going to happen. What if Mercer wins? This would have to be the biggest upset in college football
Auburn
history.
also played Mercer. Auburn only won 24-10 because they fumbled the ball like 4 times. So maybe the Bears can do it.
So, Tom, in my opinion, and remember, this is coming from a college football fan who thrives on chaos and has really only paid attention to big-time college football, I want to say, for only about the past, half a decade, maybe a decade or so. Should SEC teams keep scheduling late season games against the FCS? Because my answer, Tom, is no. This is garbage. This is the #1 team in the country playing Mercer. This is so sad. Why? Why are they doing this?
Should not schedule FCS programs. I don't think that they should do that at all. I think what should be done is they should play a bunch of Sun Belt teams. Because everyone wins when this happens. The SEC team gets a nice, easy win before the end of the year or early in the year. Ohio State does the same thing when they play bad MAC schools. And then the small schools get some nice money to help fund their struggling programs because the small schools don't make money on football.
I'm sure it's great for the programs, but for us as a college football fan, next week is the week of college football. It's the week.
This is just like
this week,
the walkthrough.
This week I envy, or I guess I'm also covering social on Saturday. Myself and the rest of the people who have to cover social media for college football Saturday this week are sobbing because we have to pay attention to Alabama Mercer, Auburn, Louisiana Monroe, and just all of these garbage football games. We have a comment coming in saying, okay, boys, so outside of your conference, what do you say about UCLA versus USC?
Not really sure what the preface is, but we both have USC winning, but there's a money sign there. Makes me think David's a UCLA fan, so I'm sorry. You might be getting a new coach after this year.
You might be getting a new coach this year. You should be
assuming
praying.
You are a UCLA team.
You should be praying for a new coach this year. But let's move back into some game previews here. Nebraska taking on Penn State, a game that is probably featuring one of many games of brand new head coaching candidates, most likely. The new AD in Nebraska did say that Mike Riley will keep his job through the rest of the year, but...
Which I'm going to go off on a rant here in a little bit. But continue.
Let's be honest, there's nothing really saving this team. The one little interesting thing about this game that I didn't realize before, Nebraska actually leads this series all time 9-7, and it's actually won the last 4 meetings between these two teams.
Last time they played was actually an awesome game. I don't know if you remember that.
I don't.
It was a thrilling Nebraska-Penn State game. This was before Penn State became back under
Wait, is that back during the Alex Martinez, Nebraska quarterback days?
Too far back. You went too far back. Sorry, buddy. You were close.
That was fun. I think that was like my freshman year of college, maybe?
Even further back.
Something
anyway,
like that.
continue.
All right, let's check out some names that could replace Mike Riley in the college football coaching sphere. So let's start off with the former Nebraska Cornhusker themselves. How about Scott Frost, the UCF head coach?
See, this is the issue. When you're a team like Nebraska or another similar program where you're probably going to fire your head coach at the end of the year because Nebraska's 4-6. Best case, they finish with 6 wins and they go to a middling bowl game and Mike Riley still gets fired because new AD and it's kind of clear that it was a weird hire. Well, a lot of teams want Scott Frost right now.
Everyone wants Scott
Florida,
Frost.
Tennessee. All these teams want this young, hot coach who's done wonders with the Golden Knights. So when you compare the team Nebraska and let's say Florida's already doing their work. They're able to openly we're looking for coaches. Nebraska can't do it in the same way. They might end up losing out on the guy that they want because they haven't done enough in advance. They haven't fired their coach and moved on and tried to do weird and do more. They haven't done enough there.
Yeah, and I guess at the same time, I have a question about when it comes to Scott Frost. If you're Scott Frost, do you wait a year and then jump to the NFL? Or do you stay in college? Because think about it. He's at an age point where, for instance, Sean McVay just got a head coaching job. Young coaching candidates in the NFL are hot right now. Could Scott Frost go that same direction?
To the NFL?
Yeah.
No, he's going to stay in college. He's a college coach.
Is there even a chance that he goes to Nebraska over Florida?
Yeah, if Nebraska gets their act together. Look, Scott Frost went to Nebraska. He's an alumnus. For most coaches, oh man, coach where I played, that's my dream job. Even though Florida's a better job, and we'll talk about that later on in the show, but Nebraska's got to get their act together. If you're Scott Frost and you sit there and you got Florida, hey, what do you think? You want to come here? Hey, come on, let's go out. Let's go on that date.
Let's go hang.
At a certain point,
Netflix and chill.
You're just not going to wait anymore for your dream girl. And you'll be like, all right, you know what? You're not interested.
Well, with Florida, Netflix and chilling
Coaching
with Scott
and
Frost,
colleges is a relationship.
Nebraska might need to look somewhere else. Another name that is popping up all over the place is Matt Campbell, the head coach for Iowa State, who has taken a mid-level program, taken down Oklahoma, taken down TCU, a couple big wins on the year for them. They're bowl eligible. I would not call Iowa State a elite college football program, but Matt Campbell's done a decent job with them this year. In my opinion, I would wait to see a little bit more out of Matt Campbell than just 2 big wins, but we'll see what ends up happening with Matt Campbell. Is Nebraska the place for him?
I think Nebraska's a nice option. The weird thing about Matt Campbell was that before he went to Iowa State, outside of briefly playing at Pitt for a year, he has pretty much spent his entire career in Ohio. He was an Ohio guy through and through. So
just like you, man.
Yeah, so if Urban Meyer ever decides to retire again, Matt Campbell's going to be like, I want that job real bad. Anyway, I think Nebraska makes sense. I think it'd be a step up for Campbell. I think he's shown with jumping from the Toledo head coach job to Iowa State job that he's not afraid to leave in the end there. What really concerns me the most about Matt Campbell is I think other teams are going to have interest in him. Because what he has done at Iowa State is actually super impressive to me. This was a horrifically bad Cyclones team. They only won 3 games in his first year. They are already 6-4 this year. They're going to a bowl game. At Iowa State, That is a wildly successful season.
I mean, let's be totally honest. You can make an argument that the best player is Joel Lanning, who's a combo quarterback, tight end, linebacker, offensive lineman, running back, everything.
Best players is either Alan Lazar, the receiver,
Oh,
or
Lazar, yes,
David
right.
Montgomery, who's been breaking tackles at an unreal pace.
I just like Joel Lanning because the dude plays so many positions and he's like the ultimate tough guy. So big fan of that Iowa State team. We'll see what happens with him. All right, Tom, help me pronounce his name because I don't feel like publicly embarrassing myself trying to say his name. The head coach of Navy, Ken
Niumatalolo.
Niumatalolo. Great name, first of all.
There you go.
Great name. Second of all, is there a chance he goes to Nebraska?
Well, I think the connection here is obviously, academic service team, or team, triple option Nebraska.
Whoa!
Which actually kind of makes some sense because Nebraska's stuck in the past. That's what they are.
Well,
We'll see if the new AD fixes that, but let's not kid ourselves.
Which of those three are the most likely?
Most likely, I think Matt Campbell, because I think Scott Frost would be the best fit. But if Nebraska doesn't get their stuff going here, they're going to miss out on him. So I think Scott Frost is the number one option, and I agree with Dwight. He should be who they hire, but they got to start moving. They can't just drag their feet. He's not going to wait around forever because if you're Scott Frost, let's say Florida does come calling. It's a tough job to turn down, even if it is for your alma mater.
If you're Florida, in my opinion at least, you're seeing what Oklahoma did with Lincoln Riley, and you're looking at Scott Frost like, yes, YES. Scott Frost is my guy. Let's move on to another game we got this week. This one might actually be an okay game. Tennessee taking on LSU, number 20. One thing I do want to say about this game outside of Tennessee, shout out to Darius Geis, who had a little bit of a slow start to the year.
Been banged
but
up.
the past couple weeks, oh my goodness, Tom. There were some people last year who thought that Darius Geis might actually be better than Leonard Fournette. I don't know how true that is. He has been
I didn't think that way.
Unreal in the past couple weeks.
276 yards last week. He might go off again against Tennessee because they've been horrifically bad against the ground this year. Look, this is the battle. This is the falling upwards bowl. Brady Hoke versus Ed Orgeron.
I forgot Brady. Oh,
yeah, you forgot about Hoke, right?
We can't braze over the fact that Brady Hoke, how it was a news story, like this was a big news story, that Brady Hoke was going to wear a headset on Saturday.
About time.
Big deal, Tom. Big deal.
Well,
Brady Hoke's going to wear a headset.
I don't need a headset. I don't need a headset to hear what my other coaches are talking about. Actually, you know what would be hilarious? Tennessee goes on fire and they promote Brady Hoke to head coach.
Let's go see what some head coaching candidates are now that Butch Jones is gone. Tom, the John Gruden Bowl to get him a head coaching job continues. But do you know what this smells like to me? Smells like to me that John Gruden wants a nice fat raise from ESPN to stay in the broadcast booth. I'm sorry, Tom. My percentage meter for John Gruden going to any team is 0. College or pros. I'd be stunned. I'd be absolutely stunned. I know John Gruden is beloved across the country, but I would be stunned.
I think the main thing here with John Gruden, Tennessee loves him, and John Gruden in the past has said Tennessee's his dream job.
True, but something that we researched before the show, Tom, and it was something I was actually interested in. No Super Bowl winning coach in football history has ever gone from the NFL back to college after winning a Super Bowl.
Yeah, there are not many coaches that are even in the mix there. I will say this, though. There was the report today, multiple reports actually. AD John Curry flew to Tampa Bay and he made the pitch to John Gruden. Well, the groomers are real.
I'll say this much, Tom. I'll say this much. How much is John Gruden currently paying by ESPN?
A lot of money.
Like $6.5 million.
But he also wants to be a head coach.
He has one of the best jobs in sports right now. I'm not really convinced that he wants another coaching job.
The groomers are real. And this would be the Jim Harbaugh hire for Tennessee. It's what they need.
Very much would be. All right, let's check out another guy, Mike Norvell, the Memphis head coach, who's led them on a pretty couple spectacular years here now. He's turned Riley Ferguson into a legitimate NFL prospect.
Who was really bad at Tennessee, by the way.
Yeah.
So there you go.
There you go.
Wasn't good enough at Tennessee under Butch Jones. Was good enough at Mike Norvell under Memphis.
Mike Norvell is an interesting name. I actually like this name a lot, but for me, I feel like Tennessee at this point needs to get a big name. Is Mike Norvell not a big enough name for Tennessee right now?
Probably not, but don't let the gray hair fool you. He's only 36.
Yes, of course.
I think with Mike Norvell, you would get an actual offense, and that's something Tennessee needs right now. They don't have a great offense. Norvell's turned Memphis into one of the most spectacular offenses in all of college football. Mm-hmm. I would have interest in him if I was Tennessee. I know he's not the big name you want, but it's better than Derek Dooley.
Memphis ranked at one point this year, beating a couple good teams, beat a UCLA team.
They're still ranked.
They are still ranked back when UCLA was actually good. On way, I believe Memphis currently sitting there at 8-1.
Yep.
So pretty fantastic year so far for the Memphis Tigers. Got a comment here from Dakota Houseman. House saying, can Brady Hoke take the helm in Tennessee? The real question is, do you want Brady Hoke to take the helm in Tennessee?
The answer is no. The comedy factor intrigues me. That's the comedy factor there. My guess is no way. Absolutely not.
Another comment here from Kenneth Woodward. I've heard that Frost to Nebraska, Steve Spurrier to Florida, and Kelly to Tennessee. The old ball coach ain't coaching no more.
Also would be awesome.
No, that'd be great.
Also not happening.
How old is he now? Spurrier has to be close to 80, right? Has to be. He's been coaching for almost three times. He's 72. Okay, never mind. Because it feels like he's been coaching for like 3 times as long.
The old ball coach likes to hang around football, but he don't want to actually be a head coach anymore.
Yeah,
it's a lot of work.
Spurrier's in booster territory by now.
I've not heard Chip Kelly linked at all to Tennessee.
I would be stunned if Chip Kelly went to Tennessee.
Every team gets one big fish that they try and target.
Yep.
Florida's going for Chip Kelly, which we'll talk more about in a little bit. Tennessee going after John Gruden.
Very true. All right, let's move on to another team with some head coaching problems. It is not Mississippi State, though they might actually lose their head coach, Dan Mullen. We'll see. The number 16 Mississippi State, didn't they improve in the rankings after losing to Alabama?
They stayed the same.
Stayed the same. That's a little funky to me, but they do take on an Arkansas team that's just bad, Tom. This is just a bad football team. I'm kind of surprised this line's only 11.5.
Well, Arkansas tends to play ugly, close games.
That's fair.
I will point this out. Look, Brett Bielema was kind of a weird hire in the first place, and I think at this point, if you're Brett Bielema, you probably know that I'm going to get fired.
Yeah.
Like, look, the number one job of an SEC coach is to win in the SEC. And I know, shocking to hear.
Wow.
He is 11-27 in the SEC.
We have
That's really bad. He's under 500.
That's a hashtag not great, Tom.
Yeah.
That is a hashtag not great. That's pretty terrible.
And look, I know that Arkansas isn't a perennial power. It's also not like this was a horrifically bad Arkansas team. Like this was a pretty steady bowl game caliber team before Brett Bielema arrived, and now they're that, but they might not make one this year, man. Like it's bad in Arkansas. They're 4-6 right now. They lose this game, they're not going.
Then let's look at some head coaching jobs now that Bielema is most likely, if not 100% chance of getting fired. We bring Mike Norvell back to the table. What's more likely, Arkansas?
Arkansas.
Somewhere
and I
else?
think the big thing with Mike Norvell, the connection to the state. He played at Central Arkansas. So he knows the area to an extent. I think he'd be a better fit in Arkansas anyway. Not quite the same high-profile job, same caliber of job. And it'd be a big change for the offense that frankly needs one because it's not working under Brett Bielema.
We have a new name here that I question. I question heavily. Mike Leach, the Washington State head coach. And here's my question for you, Tom. Is Arkansas right now, a better head coaching spot than Washington State?
Yes, it is. SEC is better than Pac-12. I think you'd be eager to recruit there. You get paid more money. Yeah, it is. It's Washington State.
I know, but I'm just saying, with how weak the top end of the Pac-12 is, if you're Mike Leach, they're giving you all the money in the world. You have all the recruiting you could want. You have one interstate rival, and the rest of the games you have to play, usually you're a bunch of cupcakes. I don't know. Washington, he's been doing great.
It's Washington State. I get where you're going from as things stand right now, but Arkansas is always going to be a better job than Washington State. It's not a good job.
But if you're Mike Leach, would you ever leave for Arkansas? You have the cushiest job in the world right now. You can lead Washington State to 8-9 wins almost every single year in the Pac-12 with good coaching. UCLA is going to go through a big upheaval. USC is going to lose their quarterback. Washington's going to lose their whole team next year. I don't know.
I get your point.
I don't know.
These are also competitors.
That's fair.
These aren't coaches who go, okay, well, I got 9 wins. I'm going to be happy here. This is fine with me. They want to win, and they want to win big. And you can win bigger at Arkansas than you can probably win at Washington State.
Mike Leach, before Washington State, was at Texas Tech.
Had some issues there.
Yeah, had some big issues there. They're still going through some legal issues there. Has been there since 2012. Has to be totally honest, Tom, he's been absolutely fantastic for them. So for the past, since 2015, they've gone 9-4, 8-5, and they're going to go to a bowl game this year. So they will end up going to bowl games for the last 5 years. They had a really rough 3-9 year in there, but now it seems that they've gotten their recruiting down. The Mike Leach offensive system is there, so we'll see. I like the name though. I think that'd be a good hire for them. And then our last name, Tom,
people aren't going to like this one, but it's great.
Lane Kiffin.
Sir, I believe you owe Lane Kiffin and FAU an apology after what you said earlier this year.
I owe FAU an apology. I owe Lane Kiffin nothing.
You owe Lane Kiffin an apology. You ripped him like in the first 2 weeks.
I did.
Since then, he has turned into what we all thought he was originally. Basically a really good offensive coordinator, and he's done a great job at FAU.
He is a good offensive coordinator, but is he going to be a good head coach for a top-level team?
Who cares? It's going to be fun to watch.
Man,
I need Lane Kiffin back in the SEC.
Look,
I need it.
All right, Tom.
Because Tennessee hates him. If it feels Arkansas, they can hate him too. Lane Kiffin can just go through every SEC school and hate them all.
I could never trust the head coach who was so bad at his job, they were fired before the national championship game of the team that they had been on for 2 years already. That's how bad he was. They fired him before the national championship game. Alabama.
A lot of people don't like Lane Kiffin. I will tell you what I was. I'll tell you what I was told by an athletic director who was looking for a head coach. I asked him, like jokingly, "What about Lane Kiffin?" He looked at me and laughed and said, "Let me ask you at USC and Tennessee how that went." Lane Kiffin is not highly viewed by many.
I'll put it this way: we'd be having the same conversation if he was given that job at Arkansas. Tom,
it'd be pretty funny. I get a kick out of it.
It's just awful. Coming back on screen here, I'm Harris Rubenstein. That is Tom Downey. We are your Zebra Bros today, coming at you with the college football preview show, going through some head coaching jobs. We'll get to the top 10 college football programs in a little bit, but let's move on to another team here. We got the Florida Gators, and the big fish in the sea for the Gators to chomp down on is Chip Kelly. Tom, I gotta say, if there was ever a coaching job for Chip Kelly to come back to, this is the one. This is the one. Isn't this the one? Where else could he go?
I think
he can't go back to the Pac-12.
Ooh, could he?
No, come on.
He can go back to the Pac-12. It'll be fun. Look, I think I'm very curious to see what Chip Kelly does, because pretty much every college job that comes open, he gets linked, and for good reason. He's a great college head coach, and Florida would be a great job. I think Kelly and Florida could do some great things down there. Mm-hmm. With that said, I think it's less can Florida get him as opposed to does Chip Kelly want to be the Florida head coach. If he does, I think it'll happen. And I think in the end, it's not only up to Florida. What they, I was thinking try and pitch him hard, and give him a big old check, but I think it's very much on Chip Kelly's side of things. The ball's in his court. If he says, I want to be the Florida head coach, they're going to make it happen.
I have to imagine. Think of the college jobs that Chip Kelly would be attracted to come back for.
Big name jobs that can win big.
And I have to imagine that Florida has to be one of the top 4 names on the list. I think the only other names that Chip Kelly might come back for, Notre Dame would definitely be on that list. USC would probably be on that list as well. Florida would probably be on that list as well. I don't really know what it would be after that. We have a comment coming in here from Matt Rutherford. Scott Frost to Nebraska, Kelly to Florida, Mullen to Tennessee, Morris to A&M, and Kiffin to Oregon State. Morris?
Let's break these down here. He means Chad Morris, the SMU head coach. I do think that makes a lot of sense for A&M, and I think that'd be a nice quality hire. Chad Morris knows the area well. I think that'd be a nice fit there. Dan Mullen, Tennessee is one that's been linked. I think the best case scenario for Tennessee is that they get John Gruden. Yep. If Chip Kelly gets Florida, I think that does, Chip Kelly does go to Florida. I think that clears the path for Scott Frost in Nebraska. Kiffin to Oregon State would be interesting.
That'd be a fun one.
That'd be a fun one.
I could see Lane Kiffin in the Pac-12.
You know the first chance Kiffin gets, or at least one of the better chances he gets, he's going to make the jump.
Oh, for sure, 100%. There's no question for that at all. So speaking of Scott Frost, we bring him up back here as a candidate for the Florida Gators job. And to be totally honest, Tom, I think this is a match made in heaven. Look, I understand the appeal of Chip Kelly. I do. But there's still a part of me that doesn't actually believe that Chip Kelly is a good head coach. There's a part of me that thinks that Chip Kelly's best days are behind him. Whereas, honestly, Tom, the future is Scott Frost. And I really do think that the best years are ahead for Scott Frost. He reminds me of what we had in Chris Peterson coming out of Boise State. He went to Washington and has created a fantastic program up there.
He was at Boise for a long time.
Back when he was at TCU, even though he's still at TCU, he was a candidate to leave and has turned TCU into a real program. This is what Scott Frost looks like to me.
That's fair. There's been a lot of rumors around this Florida job that have been going around. There's been one that they were very close to hiring Chip Kelly. I think I saw one unverified one from Twitter that it was going to be announced today. Clearly did not happen.
I'm not wearing a watch.
Not going to happen. That was very close to inaccurate news there. Scott Frost, the rumor was that Steve Spurrier wanted him. And Spurrier tweeted that, nope, I'm not trying to push for anyone for the job, but I don't know if I really believe that, but I think Scott Frost
Kind
is
of more
very
like a
much in the
hint,
mix.
hint, wink, wink,
Yeah,
sign
look,
the really good interstate guy.
Scott Frost is in the mix there for that job, and that's why Nebraska needs to get going. Like
Yeah.
they need to fire Mike Riley and move on.
And the last candidate that we have here, the head coach of Mississippi State, Dan Mullen, who has done, another coach who's done a great job of reviving a program. They're a decent competitor almost every year now. They're in a lot of games. He obviously did great work with Dak Prescott when he was there. Though I got to say, Dak Prescott, for as good as he's been in the NFL, was not amazing at Mississippi
He was
State.
really good.
He was good.
He was really good.
Yeah,
He was really good. You're misremembering.
His completion percentage was bad. But Dan Mullen is, for my opinion, a good enough head coach. I think him taking the Florida job would be good. Experience in the SEC, experience
Ties to Scott
against,
Strickland, the AD.
as well, and also just experience against top flight teams. You know, he's coached and played in big games before, which for my money is a big deal. You'll see a lot of these college quarterbacks come out. They've never played in a big game in their lives before. And they go up into a big game and they get throttled. Dan Mullen has played in big games before. I think he'd be a good fit for them as well.
I think, as has been pointed out in the comments, there are some ties there to Tennessee. I wouldn't be surprised here if in the end Dan Mullen ends up going somewhere else and tries to get a new job at a better SEC school, be it Tennessee, be it Florida.
Mm-hmm. Well, those are some college football candidates that we have for you. Let's transition into my favorite segment that we've come up with here for a while, the top coaching spots in all of college football. So we are ranking them 10-1 as to what we think the best job, if they were to come available,
yes,
what the top jobs would be for a head coach. So let's start with number 10, and we have the U, Miami, Florida. Tom, this is a program that has been revived by Mark Richt. They've been pretty fantastic, and I gotta say, this would be, in my opinion, I had them higher when we came up with our initial list.
Yeah, there was a long debate amongst the Chat Sports staff finalizing this list. Miami did get in the top 10. This is, look, when you get in the top 10, you're kind of splitting hairs a little bit. These are all fantastic programs. I would love to take the Hurricanes job, but like if I were a head coach, like I know that I'm in Coral Gables. I know the stadium is an issue. It's not really in their backyard. They kind of have to go a little bit to go play at a Hard Rock Stadium. But it's the U.
Yep.
And I think that having that type of brand, even in the ever-spanning world of college football, which is much wider and it's not the same, these are your 4 games on TV this week, like it used to be quite a while ago. There's still the brand that comes with the U, and you know that you can recruit there relatively easily, even though recruiting is, again, more widespread.
Reminder, or not a reminder, I haven't mentioned this yet. For the people at home, I just want to break down our criteria. We rank them on capability of winning, conference they were in, location of the school, their ability to recruit, and their ability to spend. Spending ability is a big one. You know, I'm sorry, but if Miami
it's an arms race.
If Miami can pay $6 million for Mark Richt and another program can't, Miami's going to get the advantage because they can pay that kind of money. So we have Miami at number 10. Let's move to number 9, staying in the state. This is one that I had a big problem with. At number 9, we have Florida State, who I think this kind of goes back, for me at least, it goes to legacy. And I understand that Miami's been great, with Schnellenberger, Jimmy Johnson, but Florida State, with Bowden and then now with Jimbo Fisher, this entire Florida State program has revolved around only a couple coaches who have succeeded to almost an extreme extent. And I think that also you get the legacy with them, you get the massive size of the school, you get a little bit lower academic standards for a Florida State school that allows them to maybe reach a little bit deeper into the athletic pool than a school like Miami. But obviously Florida State gets the same kind of recruiting. I like Florida State in this thing. I would just maybe have Miami a little bit higher.
The way I pushed hard for FSU over Miami, and this was a big reason why, you take a Florida State program that for all practical purposes, it will include some pro coaches. Since they've been a really power, they've had 2 coaches.
Yep.
That is unreal. And I think that's a testament to how good this program actually is.
Isn't that a lot of pressure, though? Isn't that a lot of pressure if you're the coach coming in?
Who cares about pressure?
You have to follow up Jimbo Fisher.
Cool. I know that I'm going to take over a good program.
Competition's there. I think it's a tough one.
These are competitors. Coaches are not all different athletes. They want to win. They don't care about the pressure. They're going to go and do everything they can to win games.
Fair enough.
They want good programs. Oh, I don't know if I want this job. I got to replace Jimbo Fisher. I don't know if I want to do that. Man up, take the job.
Hey, I'll say this much. I do not envy whoever has to replace Nick Saban whenever that does come around. Let's move on here from number 9 to, obviously, number 8. and we have USC, the only California school that we have on our list. Tom, this, to me, is one of the better choices that we have here because the all-time wins are there, the winning percentage is there, the national titles are there with 11. However, having them behind a lot of SEC, Big Ten, and Big 12 schools for me is pretty fitting.
Because
of their
This is a really good program.
Yes,
I think that's
great program.
Highest all-time postseason winning percentage of schools with 25 or more bowl appearances. They got the 6 Heisman Trophy winners. They got a couple of national titles as well. 11 in total. The most recent one has been a little bit. USC is a fantastic program. And I think this is kind of where we're getting to. There's been all these. There's a common theme with quite a few of these programs. They've gone through some coach changes recently.
Yeah.
And that speaks to how important it is to get the right guy in.
I can't really say that Clay Helton is the guy for the future of USC. I feel like eventually USC is going to want to hire someone a little bit more high profile. But when it comes,
he keeps winning, he's not going to leave.
Excuse me. When it comes to USC, I think the one thing that always sticks out for me, as opposed to a lot of the, or not a lot of the other schools, there's a couple of the other schools that we'll have left on this list. The individual player names for USC is what sticks out to me because all of the quarterbacks have ended up in the NFL, all the great Heisman winners. To me, there are very few colleges where one player can stick out more than the rest of the team like at USC. And I think that's such a rare thing that you find in most. Like, for instance, rarely has a player stuck out at Alabama like Sam Darnold has at USC. Or like Tim Tebow was the last guy who ever stuck out at Florida, and that's because people were calling him like the second coming of Jesus. Same thing with Texas. Ohio State's kind of on that level, but if you're great at USC, you are instantly one of the top 2 or 3 players in the country.
Yeah, that's very true.
And that's kind of where the sticking point is with me. Let's move on to something. Let's move on to number 7, on to 7. Their rivals, Notre Dame. This is going to piss off a lot of USC fans who are probably watching this. Notre Dame sitting at number 7. The history, the glamour, the Under Armour, the everything with this school. I'm biased towards Under Armour from Maryland, but this is great. It's Notre Dame.
I push Notre Dame to be higher because I'm a big believer in the hashtag brand. Notre Dame has the brand.
Yes.
The golden helmets, the golden dome, touchdown Jesus.
Touchdown Jesus.
Like, if you talk to just a casual sports fan, it's a good chance they're going to know who Notre Dame is. Like, this is the team in the Midwest. We'll talk about another one, but it's changed. Notre Dame has dropped in part because of the way TV works now.
Yep.
You got all these channels. It's not the same thing when, hey, what are you watching? Oh, well, I know that Notre Dame's on TV.
Yep.
Notre Dame had that NBC deal. That was a huge deal for the Fighting Irish. It made them into what for a time, not anymore, a real argument that Notre Dame was the college football program.
Yep.
That's not the case anymore, but they're still deserving of a top 10 spot.
I
push for top 5.
I personally also think the reason that I would have also had them a little bit higher, I believe that if you're trying to look at the scale of success for a school, if you're a great Notre Dame team, you are the biggest team in the world. Because think about it, remember that old Notre Dame team that had Manti Te'o on it that went all the way?
And his girlfriend?
That defense was good. But that team wasn't a great team. Like they got thrashed.
They had Rudy, the movie. He was offsides, but they had the movie.
The offsides. Get out of my face now. I'm sure you've been waiting your whole broadcast career.
I'm pro Notre Dame. So
Let's move on to number 6, a team that I initially missed on totally, and I'll admit my mistake here. At number 6, we have Oklahoma. Thank God that we have our Big 12 aficionado, producer Brett Scott, to remind us to never forget about the Big 12. Boomer Sooner, Oklahoma, arguably, Tom, the most consistent college football program ever.
You go back to the late 40s with a dude named Bud Wilkinson, and even then you go to the 70s with Barry Switzer, and then to the more recent era with Bob Stoops and now Lincoln Riley. You have a tough time finding a more steady program than Oklahoma. Yeah, they don't have the same level of national titles. Oklahoma has a real argument to being a top 5 program. Boomer Sooner deserves at least 6.
And also something
it's fantastic.
For the people at home, if you've been staring at our beautiful graphics that we have here, we have Outfitter. So what does that mean? Is basically the school like a Nike or
apparel
Adidas,
provider.
The apparel provider, correct. Recently, if anyone saw the very cool little Instagram video with Blake Griffin,
you can call
Oklahoma is now a Jordan school, joining only Michigan on our list as a Jordan school. So that's kind of a cool little thing, and I think that matters a lot. They get so much money. I mean, UCLA and Notre Dame get hundreds of millions of dollars from Notre Dame every single year. Everyone gets these Nike money and everything.
I know
crazy.
it's weird to say it's important for recruiting. That's what all these uniforms are for. They're not really for the fans. It's more of a checklist, check off / selling point for the recruits and building those. And like, hey, we got these dope unis. Don't you want to, put these on to play?
Yep.
Like, oh yeah, well, like Oregon's got these. Well, so do we.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to number 5 here. The winningest program, I believe, ever in college football, the Michigan Wolverines, who I think number 5 is a really good spot for them. I think the history is there, the allure is there, the national championships are there, the wins are there, everything's there. The only thing that isn't there, Tom, is recent success.
Yeah, and I think that's going to come with Jim Harbaugh, for what it's worth. So I think all these programs, they've got something that they can point to. Notre Dame, the gold helmets, the NBC, the Oklahoma, the Bud Wilkinson and Barry Switzer domination, Bob Stoops as well. Michigan, when I think Michigan, the first thing that I think of, A, Charles Woodson with the Heisman, because defensive player won, and B, the Big House.
The Big House.
Like, they have that iconic element to them. Michigan has that with the Big House. Plus, I think their uniforms are pretty cool too.
I think the
uniforms, I know that's whatever, but that's how we identify. So, when you have the iconic uniform, the helmet that everybody knows immediately what that team is, that matters.
Dumb little thing for me that I've always found funny. I love that Michigan fans always say "Go Blue," despite the fact that everything else about their team is yellow. Like it's the one thing that it's always kind of "Go Blue." The M is yellow, and I know it's maize and blue. It's just always been a little fun thing with me. Tom, I got to say, this Wisconsin-Michigan game that we have coming back on screen here, just a reminder that our episode is brought to you by the Game Time app. You have this here. What are our prices for the game that we have this week?
This obviously is the game this week.
Yes,
so it's not going to be cheap to go into Camp Randall. You can get them for under $130, though. That's a pretty good deal. Like, to get that, and these are actually pretty solid seats, too. End zone area. Like, you can get a fantastic game. It's going to be pricey, but you're not going to find a better deal than the Game Time app. Under $130 this weekend.
That's
pretty
good.
If you wait closer to Game Time, hint, pro tip, they'll drop down.
That's why it's called Game Time. Go to chatsports.com/tickets. Just put it right next to that Chat Sports app, and you have all the sports ticketing and sports news that you will need. Let's move on to number 4, Tom. And at number 4, we have another interesting team, and this is one that I kind of wanted to get into pretty deep with, the Alabama Crimson Tide. So they have the titles. They are the most dominant college football team right now, have been since Nick Saban got there. The all-time wins, the history with it, everything is there. Nike school, just why isn't Alabama number 1?
Because their national titles are disputed. It's a fair argument. They claim a lot of national titles that aren't actually theirs. I'm just going to point that out there. Look, Alabama, I think once you got into the top 6 or top 5, there are legitimate arguments for number 1, and frankly, all teams had, and there were made arguments for number 1. What knocks it down for Alabama is, look, there's Bear Bryant, there's the Bear Bryant era, and the Nick Saban era, those eras, and then, honestly, it gets a little thin for me. I know that they had some success there, but I think of Alabama, I think of Bear Bryant, I think of the Houndstooth Cap. That's what I think of.
Yep.
That's the iconic moment there. I think other programs have just a little bit more overall. Again, we're splitting hairs here. Alabama, that's not a sign of disrespect.
You might think of Bear Bryant. I still think of Nick Saban screaming at Lane Kiffin every single game. Every single game. He would always scream at him. But obviously Alabama, just the most. I'll put it this way.
Look,
I am a Patriots fan, but I've never seen a sports team do what Alabama's been able to do. Like, it's just unheralded dominance over a sport. Unheralded.
I just want to point out that this is my only chance to rant against Alabama's claimed national title. It's not like I'm going to upset some Alabama fans. I understand that. Your 1941 national title, when you went 9-2 and claimed to be and were ranked number 20 by the AP Poll, and you claim a national title, doesn't count, guys. Doesn't count.
We have a comment coming in here from Mark Lagrange. I'm sorry if I said your name incorrectly. LSU Money Stadium, no in-state competition for recruits. Louisiana Lafayette and the Raging Cajuns would like to have a word with you, sir. But, LSU was actually on our list, but unfortunately actually ended up dropping off of our list into like the 11 to 15 area.
He makes a solid point with LSU, and they were very much in our discussion. What ended up leaving LSU out was a couple of things. One, you mentioned the recruiting. more and more now, recruiting is widespread. You got Texas teams and you got Florida teams and Alabama teams flowing into the state of Louisiana and taking recruits away. Yeah, there's no in-state competition. It doesn't really mean as much as it used to be. And also, go back to pre-Nick Saban. Who knows of an LSU head coach? Like, LSU of late has been great, but when you're getting top 10, there needs to be that historical element that's not really there with LSU.
And hey, I just got to say, the best athlete that's been at the school in the past 10 years has been Ben Simmons, and he was a basketball player. So
disrespect to Fournette. But anyway, continue.
All right, let's move on here. Good comment, though, from Mark. Let's move on to number 3. And Tom saying number 3, it's Texas. And it kind of has to be. Texas has to be in your top 3.
I pushed from higher.
The number 1 high school football school in the country. It is a religion in this state to play high school football. The high school stadiums here
family football
are 30 to 40 to 50,000 seat stadiums to watch high school football. It's crazy stuff. The recruiting is there. The history is there. But again, the only thing that isn't there, Tom, the recent success has been bad.
I think exactly, and that's why they're not higher.
Vince Young.
Yeah, I think the reason why they're 3, I point to one big element. In 2012, the football program, not the athletic department, the football program was valued at $805 million.
Wow.
That's an unreal amount.
Wow.
That's more than some NFL teams.
That's like Owen Wilson's WoW compilation.
Again, thank you, Harris. Like, we point to iconic brands in college football. This is one of them. Yep. I mean, I still think one of, if not the most iconic play in college football is Vince Young's run against USC. Like, when I think of football, like, that's one of the first things that I think of in my head here. So with Texas there, I love having them in there. They have their own TV channel. Like, I know the Longhorn Network hasn't been a huge success, but to say, yeah, we got our own TV channel.
Hey, it's a big success for people who like Texas football.
Yeah.
I've heard from a couple of Texas fans that I know that they absolutely love it, and the content that they pump out is great. We're all about great content here at Chat Sports. Let's move on to number 2 as we progress through our top 10 coaching jobs list. At number 2, we have Florida. And Tom, I gotta say, I don't necessarily agree with this one. I understand that, the state of Florida is the one of the high school football states. The recruiting is there, location, the spending and the money is there. They have the conference, the winning is there, but you lose me. You lose me. Because it goes Tebow in my head, and then before that, a couple good teams. But, man, even that Tebow team was full of criminals.
Wildly underestimating how good the old ball coach was.
Oh, yes, okay, the old ball coach. Excuse me.
Again, we talk about iconic things. The Swamp.
Fair.
They've got that. And here's the other thing.
Swamp's lost his luster, though, recently.
When I think, okay, where can I go in college football that I believe I can win big, just in general? All these programs check off that box there. But I look at a program like Florida. You are in the state of Florida, a fertile as hell recruiting ground.
Yeah.
You can win at Florida. The national titles aren't there, but everything else is. Mm-hmm. And I think Florida, maybe more so than Texas, this should be the most coveted coaching job that's come up since Urban Meyer went to OSU. This job is unreal because if you're at Florida, you should be winning 10 games every year because you've got everything you could possibly want.
Look,
everything.
I'll put it this way. I understand that Florida's a great school, but even their last national championship team, if you look at that roster, the talent is there, but the quality of person on that Florida national championship team is not.
Who gives a shit? No one should care. We're talking about coaching spots. We're not talking about, they didn't have a good person, so shame on them.
Fair enough. All right, let's do a small recap before let's get to number 1, and then we'll recap our teams here. At number 1, we have Ohio State. And Tom, I really do think, largest fan base in the country, largest alumni base, the most money, the largest ability to get recruits from all over the country, the horseshoe, the head coach, the legacy, the conference. Everything you'd ever want in a college football program is at Ohio State.
The reason I put OSU at number 1 is I thought about this for quite a while. Everything we've said about all these other programs outside of really Notre Dame and then MACD, which is no longer a thing, everything we've said, you can say about Ohio State.
Yeah.
They've got everything you want. They have the iconic stadium, the horseshoe. They have the Buckeye stickers. Yep. They have the iconic jerseys. They have the history, the coaches with Woody Hayes, who was unreal.
Yep.
The Jim Tressel area, the Urban Meyer area. They've got everything you could want, and they have the ability to recruit. They've got the name brand. OSU, even though I do not consider myself a Buckeye fan, even though I'm from Ohio, it can get really frustrating living in Ohio with a bunch of Buckeye fans, as I think for all these programs are. But with OSU, everything you could possibly want and more is available to you.
One more thing.
You cannot find a better job.
One more thing before we jump into a little wrap up here with Ohio State. Outside of maybe only being on defense in Alabama, I'd argue that there is no college in the country right now that pumps out as many NFL-ready talents as Ohio State does on a year-to-year basis. It is very difficult to find a program who pumps out as many NFL-ready guys, so much so that Bill Belichick and Urban Meyer have had multiple times where they've taken players from each other's systems, coaches as well. Got a comment here from Jeremy Pittman. You have Florida on here and not Nebraska. Come on, man.
Look at who Nebraska's hired. They have hired Mike Riley, Bo Pelini, Bill Callahan, Frank Solich, and tell me, this is a job that coaches want to go to. It is not the Big Eight anymore. Nebraska is no longer a power program. They're just not. I think they're still a solid program, but you can tell the fact that people are considering not wanting the Nebraska job. We looked at the coaches. It's not Big Eight Tom Osborne Nebraska anymore. This is what I said earlier when I said Nebraska fans are kind of stuck in the past sometimes. Nebraska is not a top 10 program. They're not a top 15 program. They might not be a top 25 program anymore. Nebraska is not the 1980s Nebraska anymore. They're just not.
They're just not. But hey, they do have an opportunity to get them a coach that might just put them back where they need to be. Let's run through the top 10 before we say goodbye. At number 10, we have the U because, Tom, when the U is hot, it is all about the U. At number 9, we have Florida State. The Seminoles doing a great job there right now with Jimbo Fisher. At number 8, USC might be looking for a new head coach soon if Clay Helton can't get the job done. The king of the West Coast. Then we have Notre Dame, the Fighting Irish, the only independent school we have on the list. Brian Kelly, in my opinion, is going to be out kind of soon. I think they might have a pretty fun coaching job opening in the next couple years. At number 6, we have Oklahoma, the kings of the Big 12. The history is there, so many wins, and now a Jordan apparel provider. Then at number 5, we have Michigan, the history, go blue.
Big house.
The friend of the chat sports community. We love our Michigan fans. We love them out there. At number 4, we have Alabama with Nick Saban and Bear Bryant doing well down there in the SEC. At number 3, we have Texas in the great state that Chat Sports currently presides in. At number 2, we have Florida, who is looking for a head coaching job. We'll have the show on loop if you want to see who the most likely candidates are. And then at number 1, we had the Ohio State Buckeyes. Urban Meyer is doing work, and it might just be impossible to find a school who pumps out more NFL-ready talent than Ohio State. But that's going to do it for us. Reminder that the show is brought to you by Game Time. But for Tom Downey, I'm Harris Rubenstein. We are the Zebra Bros, and we will see you guys next time. This has been College Football Preview. See ya.